Hello everyone, this is Relic Jones for another Yarn and Yore. This is a little unorthodox because this time we're talking about an MMO. An MMO called Mabinogi. So, I was dating my wife at the time, and she got into an MMO called Mabinogi, and she's like, hey, what about you go join me? And I'm like, well, MMOs aren't fun to play alone. I know this. I've played enough of them alone. But she decided to go ahead and play, and I'm like, okay, I'll join you. And this is where some of the problems started. So I select my character. You have 3 races at the time. I mean, this was years ago. At the time, you had 3 races in which you could play as. Human, elf, and then you had giant. I did not want to play giant. I didn't want to play a tank. Elves started with healing abilities, and I'm like, okay, that would be useful for our party dynamic, right? Like the adventuring party is like, I can heal, she can be the fighter, cool, whatever. Nice. No. So, due to what race you start as, you have a starting zone. This is normal, right? But I'm sitting there and thinking, it's like, once I clear through the starting zone, we'll have the same hub town, right? No, apparently they had this big expansion where there was a new continent found, and that's where all the elves started. So I'm literally a world apart from my girlfriend's, future wife and all that. Like, oh man, this is bad. I have to go look on YouTube and look on game facts and stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, where's the map? What ship do I go? How much gold do I need to take the ship to the old world? Oh, and so I go through, I just chew through the starting quests to get out of the starting zone, and I travel through all these dangerous mobs, because I'm very weak level at the time. All these dangerous mobs to get to a ship, finally learn how to sail the ship, and then I get to the old world, which is nice, but now that I'm at the old world, I gotta find my way to her, my wife's starting zone. Okay, nice, but there's dire wolves and bears, and I'm like, ah. And then even what's worse than the bears are the will-o-wisps, and they get aggroed and they just hit me, and I'm dying. So eventually, I make my way to the starting hub town, and I do some of the quests with her, and we're talking via the phone because we didn't have Skype at the time. Talking on the phone while playing Mabinogi, and talking in the chat. And one day she comes up to me after I'm doing quests, and I think we beat the spider boss dungeon, and she's like, hey, I hear there's a way in which you can get married in Mabinogi. I'm like, cool, awesome. Where is this? It's another town way off in the distance. So we have a training montage to fight these brown dire wolves at the mountain pass to get to this different town. So we're punching all these things, and remember, I'm an elf and she's a human, and we eventually make it to the town, and there's a money requirement. we learn firsthand money requirement, and so okay, we got strong. We buy ourselves. We're dual wielding the best swords we can get at the time. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go kill those dire wolves at the mountain pass. Because at the time, I don't think we could solo bears, but we were soloing all these wolves, and we're discussing what's the best way to grind money at the time. I'm like, okay, you can do dire wolves, but when you're offline, I noticed that there's these gems, and at the starting area, you can turn the gems in for experience. Other gems for gold. I'm like, well, I could just trade all these gems up to its best form and get a lot of gold, right? No, and after how to put it, I could fight to get the gems myself, or there was a mini game that the giants would play, and you could go watch them, and they beat these little rats with their hammer because they have big mallets. They can beat the rats, and they would drop gems, and for the first 5 seconds of a gem being on the ground, and say, hey, you didn't kill the unit, please go get beat it yourself, don't steal someone else's treasure. But the treasure would stay for 6 seconds or 7 seconds. So there was a time where you could pick it up. So I was literally looting other people's kills playing a mini game. They didn't care about the gems. They didn't care about them at all. So I looted them and I was trading them up, and I was like, this would probably just be better to keep for experience. So I was like, it wasn't good. So eventually we went back to killing dire wolves. Eventually we went to go killing bears. Um, Also, another thing in the game, the animals would eventually drop scrolls. It was like scroll of fox form. And I'm like, oh, is that a way to unlock like a new skin for your character? Could you like transform into a fox for a period of time if you got enough of these scrolls? Nope. They were just for like, we want you to kill so many foxes, kill so many dire wolves, and this is evidence that you killed them to turn in and get experience and gold, which I kept. I looted a bunch of stuff to help increase our gold because we were trying to get married, and so we got all that. We got the gold. We went back and we learned, oh, Mabinogi's just racist. Oh, there's no marriage between elves and humans here. I'm like, what? Really? Oh, I traveled across the world and sailed the 7 seas to marry my wife at the time in game. Nope, denied because of racism. It's like, oh man, but I want the healing skill like automatically. No. So start a whole new character because you could only get one. I had to start a whole new profile on Mabinogi. I picked human, which then means I didn't have to sail the world in the 7 seas. I didn't have to sail the world in the 7 seas again to get to the old world. I started in the new world, but I'm like, but before I did that, I gave all of my money to my wife to keep at the bank and gave all my loot, like my swords and stuff, and my clothing that was pretty good. I gave it to her. I was like, no, you keep all this stuff in the bank. I'll come back and you deliver it to me. Because we saved all the money or most of the money at the time to get married. Before we learned, oh, they're racist and you can't marry a giant. You can't marry a giant. So, yeah, that was disappointing. So started a new character, and we're level grinding because I was like, man, we were so close. We got all these levels, and now we got to level grind again. So me and her party up, and we defeat the spider. Then we defeat the giant, the stone giant that you have in there. And those were the only 2 bosses we really fought. We didn't pay for the game. It was the free-to-play version. So that was like pretty much as far as you could get at the time. Keyword at the time. We didn't go to the new world again because like I had bad experiences there. So I'm level grinded back. She's where she's at. We eventually get married, and then we get married and we see all these cutscenes which don't render because my like computer is completely garbage. So, and we're like, oh man, that the money we paid for the marriage was the baseline. You could pay for so much more to have tuxedos and have groomsmen and have a bigger wedding. And it was like, oh, we could barely afford it as is. Which is reflecting, I guess, my actual wedding, but oh well. Why waste all that money when you're about to start your life and have a kid on the way? So, yeah, so there was one plus side to the horrible Mabinogi experience, and that was you got titles, and you got married to blah blah blah, and married to blah blah blah, which gave you a plus 15 when you're in a party to damage. Which, hey, I liked it. I like that. I wish a lot of different games would do titles in game to give bonuses, if you will. But yeah, we continued playing, and eventually we killed the will-o-wisps, and we got to max level without paying, and I decided to rebirth, which made it funny being a little kid, and you have title married to such and such. But a rebirth system was where you reset your, you go back to level 1, but you keep all your stats, you keep your loot, which is pretty nice. You get other titles because you get like the young who slayed blah blah blah, and the young who slayed blah blah blah, which gives you other stat bonuses. But we always kept the married to and married to title. That was all about that. We did other stuff in the game. after we got married. They had like loot boxes you could go find for beating up stuff, and I really wanted this costume that made you look like a fake tree. It was funny. I was like, I want to be the tree. But I got a killer longsword after the end that was as good as both my swords combined. And I'm trying to think of all the story information I can tell about Mabinogi to make it just one video. Later they had like a trade system where you would pick up trade items and you get trade points. And you had bandits that had the costumes like, I'm a tree, I'm a tree, I'm a tree, you know, I'm a bush, I'm a bush, and I'm a barrel, leave me alone. That you could fight and would try to stop your treasure delivery. I think while doing that, I went to towns I never knew even existed. And I accessed cutscenes that I was like, why is there like a mage academy here? But I think that was all for Mabinogi. Like, it never rendered well on my computer. And we eventually got married, but we like spent the most cheapest possible wedding in Mabinogi. But that was Relic Jones for another Yarn and Yore Mabinogi edition. Relic Jones signing out. Good gaming.